a bit nippy here, should have had a little fire here. Right, I've had to change lenses and cameras, and I have a different microphone as well, because I just ran out of batteries on my microphone. I don't have any extras, so you'll have to bear with me. Not very well prepared today. Okay, the last item in my main compartment here is of course the drone. Now the drone has been an excellent tool, especially for these vlogs. It's great to have a little bit of drone footage in there, and I just love using this thing. I can see these being a little bit annoying for some people. I know there seems to be a bit of negativity around drones, and you know, granted, if I'm in the wilderness and someone's buzzing around my ear with a drone, then I probably wouldn't be too happy either. So I try to keep that in the back of my mind. And the reality is that most of the time when I use this thing, I try to use it in an area where there aren't that many people, because, you know, I don't want to annoy people. But the footage that you can get with this is just fantastic. Now I have two drones. My other drone is actually a DJI Inspire 1, which is quite a bit bigger, has a micro four thirds sensor on it, and so it's amazing for photography. The only problem with the larger drone is that if I go out to take photographs, then it has to be either just the drone or my camera gear. It can't be both, because it's just too much stuff to carry. The nice thing about this is that, you know, I can fit it in my pack. I carry 3 batteries with it. I have crashed it a couple of times. If you are thinking of getting a drone, the Mavic Pro, which seems to be the standard for a lot of photographers, I mean, it's an excellent product. You won't be disappointed. I have had a few issues with this. Now and then it just doesn't want to take off. Like, it'll take off, but then it instantly lands again, and it's been a little frustrating. One of the videos I did in Mount Assiniboine, I had real trouble flying this thing. I got a little bit of footage and then I just couldn't take off anymore after that, so that was really frustrating. The other issue I have with DJI is that they always seem to be updating their firmware. It's great that they're keeping on top of things, but every time I go to use this thing, you know, it has this annoying message, your firmware needs updating, and it seems to be every time I use it. I'll probably do a video at some point about flying, or how to fly these in woodlands, because this is where I think this drone really excels. In many of my videos, I really like to fly close to the subject. Now, of course, there's a bit of a danger in that, in that you might crash it, but I don't necessarily want to go really high all the time. I just love that feeling of gliding over water or close to some rocks or trees, and it just, especially when you go backwards and the objects start to reveal themselves. Now, some of that stuff I've learned off YouTube videos, and I'm still learning a lot about drones, but I really enjoy flying this. It adds another element to my photography experience. So that's the drone. Now, as far as the remote control goes, up until a little while ago, I was using an iPad 4, the mini, which was great, except iPads and iPhones are terrible in cold weather, and a lot of these areas I go to, it's cold, and what would happen is I'd be flying away, la-di-da-di-da, and all of a sudden the battery would just die on my iPad, and of course then I can't see anything, and then I'd have to reboot the iPad, and of course the drone is flying somewhere. And there's been many a time where I'd actually end up just pressing the home button so that the drone would fly back automatically. It's been quite frustrating. So just up until recently, I purchased this screen here. This is actually DJI's own product. It's called Crystal Sky. Here's the remote here, and this monitor just clicks onto the bottom with a bracket, and then you just click it in. So you don't have to, you know, put your cord on there, which is another issue I've had, is that there's been a number of times where I've forgotten to bring the cord. Now, granted, that's my own fault, that's not DJI's, but you know, there's all these things to think about all the time: batteries, cords, and if you forget one of them, then you can't use the gadget. So this just eliminates those extra things that you need to carry. Now, the main reason why I ended up getting this screen is that it has this huge battery on the back that you can take it off, so you can carry an extra battery if you want, but the batteries last forever, and they go down to -20. So that was the main issue. The other thing is the screen on this is super bright. even in bright sunshine you can still see. With the iPad it was a real issue. A lot of the time I couldn't see what I was looking at, so you'd have to go under a tree or try to shade it, or I bought a shade for it and that didn't work very well, and of course then when you have the shade on it, it's hard to get your finger in there and so on and so forth. So I bit the bullet and got this screen, and it works really well. So that's what I'm using now with the drone. The other thing with the drone, especially the Mavic, is that for a lot of the shots, video especially, it's nice to have ND filters. Because it's a fixed aperture, you can only change the shutter speed in the ISO, and the ISO you don't want to muck about with too much, because at the higher ISOs the quality tends to go down pretty quickly. So then you're stuck with the shutter speed, and the only way to reduce the shutter speed is by putting ND filters on. I have found that there's been a number of times where I've forgotten these and my shutter speed was way too fast, like a thousandth of a second while I'm videotaping. It doesn't matter so much unless it's an object that's moving, say a waterfall or someone running or something. Then movement can be a bit of an issue, because you want it to look cinematic. So ideally you want that shutter speed to be around, a 60th or a 50th of a second rather than a thousandth. So that's what the ND filters are for. Okay, now in the lid of this there is another pocket, and I'm not sure actually what I have in there. I have 2 pairs of glasses, and you know what? I've been looking for those. I couldn't find them anywhere, and now I know where they are. Okay, so that's everything in my pack. But like I said before, I don't necessarily carry all that on on every trip. I'll kind of pick and choose what I need for the day and go from there. Now in this pack, I do have a few things that might be of interest to you. These are things that are more seasonal, or that I might carry on specific trips. So what do we have here? Okay, I have another lens here. Now this lens is an older lens, and I don't think they've changed the design for, well, at least 15 years, I think. This is a 200mm f4 macro lens. It goes down to 1:1. It's extremely sharp. It does have an autofocus on it, but it's the old style autofocus, so you pretty much manually focus it. It's an extremely heavy lens. It's internal focus. It's an amazing macro lens. Gives you tons of working distance. It's great if you're into photographing flowers, individual flowers with that nice bokeh background, or butterflies, or anything like that. Currently I think Nikon has the 60mm, the 105 and the 200 macro, and I just like this because of the working distance. I don't use it that often, so it pretty much stays at home. I used it mainly when I was photoing gardens, when I used to work in the garden industry, but I don't shoot gardens very much anymore, so I haven't used it for a while. Something else that I have in here, I have a couple of leaf filters. Now these, I specifically bought these for the 14 to 24mm lens. As you can see, they're very large. They're really good filters. One's a polarizer, one's the big stopper, so it's a 10 stop ND filter. The holder, as you can see, is, if I can get it out, is very large, and it was very expensive. Oh, I have the lens on. I'm using the lens now for this video. The way it works is that this just pushes on the front, and then you just tighten up this knob here, and then it's still able to rotate, but it doesn't come off. It's a good system, but like I said, lately I haven't been using it that much. It's just because it's just too much stuff to carry. So I use this when I'm working out of the car generally, or if it's just a short hike. This thing here, this is a 77mm adapter for the Lee filter system. So if I'm using the other lenses with these same filters, this is what I would use. As you can see, again, it's quite large and bulky. Okay, the next item in my bag is some filters from Breakthrough Photography. Now, I haven't had a chance to actually use these filters yet. These are the 100mm rectangular or square filters, glass filters. This is the holder. And the way that this works is there's a ring. Now again, this is 77 millimeters. You can buy whatever size you want, 67, you name it. They have a ring for your lens. So the ring fits on like that, and then the actual holder just clicks on, and then it still rotates, but it won't pull off. So you can use these with any lens that you have other than the 14 to 24. The reason why you might want to use these, say, over the screw-on filters that I showed you earlier, is that you have more options in filters. The other filters that I have here that I haven't had a chance to try out yet are actually graduated neutral density filters. This one's a 2-stop soft edge, and they're tempered glass, so they're not going to break very easily. You'd have to really drop them on something like a big rock or something. And then this one here is a 3-stop reverse hard edge. So you can see, I don't know if you can see that, probably not, has a much more defined line between the dark area and the clear area, and because it's a reverse grad, it's darker in the center here and lighter up here. Again, I haven't had a chance to use these yet, but as soon as I do, I will most definitely let you guys know how I made out with them. Okay, what's next? Okay, I want to talk a little bit about tripods. Currently I have 4 different types of tripod. This one being the smallest. This is a Slick Sprint Pro 2. Generally I just use this for the little Sony RX100. I use this for the videos that I do. I'll either use it like this with the camera on, or if I'm walking down the trail or want some footage, then I can just use it as a regular tripod. I think it might be a little bit too small for a DSLR. I've never tried it, but it's pretty lightweight. It can go really low. It's just kind of a mini version of the Getso tripods that I have. Now the 2 Getso tripods that I have, unfortunately I can't give you the serial numbers because they've peeled off long ago, and to be honest with you, they're so old now that the design has changed drastically. These were one of the first carbon fiber tripods out there. They've served me well. The big one that I have, which I don't have here, it's actually at home drying out, is looking a bit worse for wear. The twist locks on the legs, the old version, I'm not that keen on. They seem to get seized up really easily. Every time the legs get wet, I have to pull everything apart, dry them out, otherwise they just seize right up. But the tripods have been excellent. I mean, the big one I've had for over 25 years now, so it served me well. The heads that I have on them are Kirk Enterprise heads. There's the BH3, which is the small one, which is being used right now. And then its big brother, the BH1. Again, excellent products. I remember the first head I got, the BH1, one of the knobs broke off. I bashed it on something. Anyway, I sent the head back in to be repaired, and Kirk actually sent me a brand new head, and I'd had it for 3 or 4 years, so that's pretty good service. They do need servicing again. Most of the knobs are bent up, and actually I just contacted them and I'm just going to send them in and get them to repair them. I do like the Really Right Stuff ball heads, but at this time I just can't see why I would want to replace the ones I have if they still work well. And now I do have another tripod here that was sent to me by a company to try out. This is called K&F Concept. It's a Chinese company. It's a carbon fiber tripod. This tripod is not much bigger than this one. I was a little bit apprehensive, to be honest with you, but now that I've looked at it, it looks like a pretty decent tripod, and the price I think for this guy is like $230 Canadian, which is a heck of a deal. It even comes with a little bag, and the ball head, it looks pretty decent. It's a little stiff. I know that some of you may be just starting out. You're on a budget because, you know, Getso tripods or Really Right Stuff tripods are extremely expensive. If you just do it as a photography as a hobby, you don't necessarily want to go out and buy the best and spend thousands of dollars on something that you might only use a dozen times a year. But a tripod like this might suit your needs very well. This has 3 leg locks, as where most of my other ones just have 2. Personally, I prefer less than more, just less to go wrong. And of course, when tripods are new, the twist locks feel great. So these, I mean, they open very easily. You just need half a twist. Before I give a verdict on this tripod, I'm going to try it out and I'll keep you updated on its progress. I mean, for general photography, I don't think I would go over a 100mm lens with this tripod, because although it's light and it's reasonably sturdy, it's still pretty small. It does have a hook on the bottom here, so if you are concerned about it being a bit too flimsy, you can hang something off the hook to add more weight to it. It even comes with a bag. Personally, I don't use a bag, but it's got a padded bag, and when I got this thing, it even came with a long center column. All of my tripods just have short columns. I'm not a big fan of long columns, primarily because with a long column you can't get really low, and secondly, if you have a column way up like that, it's more or less just a monopod on a tripod, and it's not terribly stable. It's probably okay with wide angle lenses, but with telephoto lenses I'd be a bit dubious. I haven't had much luck with long lenses and long center columns, so I like the short ones better. The legs on this go all the way out, so you can get flat down to the ground. So I'm reasonably impressed with this thing. I'm not terribly keen on the gold color, but you know, it's just a color. Who cares what color it is? It even comes with a bubble level on the quick release here. It's not terribly tall. I'm almost 6'3", and I do like a tall tripod, and not that many tripods are that tall. The thing is with a tripod, you know, it may be tall when you're in the store on flat ground, but as soon as you're standing on a hill with your tripod in front of you, then all of a sudden your tall tripod becomes very short. And I don't really like to be stooped over all day. I'll try it with my DSLR and I'll see how I make out. Maybe it'd be a good tripod for backpacking. It's certainly light enough. Okay, another item that I have in my bag here that aren't that common are these snowshoes. Now, this set here are actually made by Manfrotto. Gitzo also makes them. Now, Manfrotto owns Gitzo, so you know, they're virtually the same product. The funny thing is, the first set I got were the Gitzo ones, and I got them on sale for like 20 bucks for a set, which was a steal. I used them for 2 or 3 years, and then the rubber went on them. So I went to get replacement rubber parts, and they wanted some astronomical price for them. So I ended up getting the Manfrotto set, because this set of snowshoes were cheaper than buying the Gitzo rubber bits, which are probably the same. Anyway, so now I got Manfrotto snowshoes. The way that they work, it's very simple. They just you just put them on the end of your tripod leg like so, and then just do up the rubber strap, and it just sits there. And the idea is that your tripod will end up sitting on top of the snow rather than way down deep in the snow. Especially around here, like sometimes the snow can be meters deep, and of course if you you know, push your tripod in, you could end up, you know, pushing it all the way down to here, so that doesn't give you much room to work with, does it? I would imagine that these work extremely well on sand as well. I know that some photographers, Thomas Heaton being one, uses CDs or DVDs. This is kind of the same idea, it's just more refined. The nice thing about this is that they can stay on your legs. You don't have to, you don't have much chance of losing them. But of course they're probably a little bit more money. Okay, it suddenly got really dark. I just had to turn up the exposure. Right, I'll keep going before it starts raining. A couple more items that may or may not be interesting to people. Laptop. I generally bring a laptop with me if I go on extended trips. I don't carry one with me in my backpack. It's just too much trouble. But Pelican case works great. It's shockproof, waterproof. I haven't tried putting it underwater yet because I'm not that confident about it. But I think this was about $60 or something, so it works pretty good. Okay, back to my back to my hip pack. Okay, I just want to talk briefly about this lens here. This isn't a particularly great lens. It's a Nikon 80-400. This is the old version. I use it in a pinch, you know, if I happen to come across some wildlife or I just need that extra reach. I very rarely take it with me on a hike or anything like that. It's not particularly sharp, but in a pinch it works fine. And perhaps one day I'll upgrade it, but I don't really have a huge need for it right now. Okay, so that's that lens. Okay, now the last item I wanted to talk about was safety in the woods. Now, generally speaking, I don't worry too much about coming face to face with wild critters, especially bears. I have come across a lot of bears, and 99% of the time they either just ignore me or they just move on, run away or whatever. The thing is to use a bit of common sense. I mean, there's bears in this area that I'm in now. There's quite a few bears actually. The chances of me meeting one today are pretty slim. And to be honest with you, like I've said to a number of people on the in the comments on my videos, is that I'm more concerned about yahoos in the woods than wildlife. There are a lot of crazies out there, and I would be more worried about people shooting off their firearms irresponsibly or driving drunk on their ATVs, to be honest with you. If I'm traveling in the Canadian Rockies, I'll carry some kind of bear protection device. The most common one being bear spray. This is actually a can of bear spray that a good friend of mine gave me, Alistair Ben, who lives on the Isle of Skye, so there's not too many bears there. Unfortunately, this one is almost, the expiry date is almost run out. Bear spray is an okay deterrent. You know, the problem with any of these things that I'm going to show you is that it really depends on how aggressive the bear is. With bear spray, the bear has to be more or less on top of you before you can use it. You also have to make sure that you're spraying in, you know, with the wind coming from behind you. If there is a strong wind, if there's wind coming towards you, then it's not going to do you much good. You're just going to get blinded by this stuff, and the bear will just have a better chance of mauling you to death. So it does have its limitations. I do know that some people carry firearms for bear protection. That's not a great idea either, because if you do end up using a firearm on a bear, then you better make sure you kill it, because if you just injure it, you're just going to piss it off even more. So you probably have a better chance with bear spray. I know a lot of people would disagree with me on that one, but I think I'd rather carry this than a firearm, to be honest with you. Maybe not against polar bears though. Some other devices that I carry, now and then I'll carry a flare. Sometimes just the pop of the flare will scare a critter away. It's not a bad idea to carry, you know, maybe these two together. All depends whether I remember to bring them or not. The other one is this little device here. This is a little bit more lightweight. This is what's called a bear banger. And the way that this works is this is a cartridge. Well, actually, why don't I just show you? Okay, I was going to show you, but now it's starting to hail, so I'm not going to show you. Damn it! It's a pretty simple device, so you just pull the trigger back. Are you ready? And as you can see, it's pretty loud. Yay! 1,000 subscribers.